I think it starts at the beginning. It starts the way we are carrying our children, the way we are birthing our children, and the way we're caring for them afterwards, and the way we were birthed and cared for. Because we pass it on.
I think one of the most exciting things about the whole 20th century is coming into full awareness of what's involved in the birth process.
From all of our studies now, we know that the baby is far more sophisticated than anything we ever gave it credit for being before. We didn't think it could have an experience. We didn't think it could sense anything. And we didn't think it had the brains to know what the senses were telling them. Babies seem to have a working mind, which is part of their consciousness, part of their human consciousness. It's not something that develops in stages like the brain develops in stages. The mind is simply a part of who they are. That's a whole new idea.
When people have recalled what happened very, very even at the earliest at conception in the prenatal period at birth, their level of recall of what they talk about goes beyond what they have the brain support to remember.
Psychology wasn't digging into that ground. But now, very clever experiments are designed to use the simplest behaviors of the baby, so the baby can tell us that it's listening or that it cares and that it remembers.
Ultrasound allows us to peer into the womb and watch the behaviors of babies even before they are born. We've discovered that they are already interacting, and in the case of twins, responding to each other.
In one pair of twins that were observed beginning at 20 weeks of gestation and followed for a couple of years after birth, when they were 1 year old, their favorite game was to take a position on either side of a curtain and to begin to touch each other through the curtain and begin to giggle and stroke each other from either side of the curtain. This was a behavior that was observed at 20 weeks in the womb. They were in separate little sacks, and the one boy who was very active would come up to the sack and awaken his sister, get her excited, and she would always respond, and they would play together on either side of this curtain. They remembered that, of course. They had learned that in the womb, and they continued to do it, and we could see it both before birth and after. Babies are extraordinary communicators, and we hadn't thought that that would be possible. By communication, I mean the baby is in communication with the mother and father. The mother and father is in communication with the baby, whether they know it or not. So the signals are traveling back and forth constantly between the baby in the womb and the mother and father, although they may be just oblivious to that fact. Usually mothers intuitively start talking to the baby, and they were right. I think there have always been parents who knew this thousands of years ago, and they did all the right things without having any science to it at all. They did it intuitively.
Children, we tend to think that, it's only after we have given birth to them that, they are, worth investing energy. But in my tribe, before you even conceive, there are a lot of things you have to do to get ready for them, trying to sort out your own mess so that you don't transfer it onto the children.
Pregnancy in many cultures is not only a time for the parents to examine their readiness and openness to a new life, but also for the community to embrace and support the parents and the new life coming in. Sabanfu Some's name means keeper of the rituals in the Dagara language of West Africa's Burkina Faso. Sabanfu left Africa a decade ago to bring birth rituals to people around the world. She shows how ritual is used in our daily lives to honor and celebrate childbirth, children, and community.
Today, what we would like to do is to do one of the many welcoming ceremonies that we do in my tribe to welcome the child. Ayanti mbamena tibual aziana. Ayanti samena tibual. Ajama ilang abali amama atis. Now that I am here and I see different women going through the ritual process, and you can feel the baby moving, and there is a different energy, a different vibration that comes alive within the mother and the baby. I think that is one of the things that really reassures the babies that, hey, I'm going to an okay place and I can really be there and I can take my gift there.
Get down on my
Talking to the baby is whatever is in your heart, whatever make you feel welcome. Say to them, we appreciate you gifting us with your gift that you are going to bring. And it is also a way of reminding them that if they're forgetting little gifts, that we need to bring them too. And at the same time, a way of telling them that there is going to be some arms here to hold them when they come. On this journey. I mean, we don't come here as tourists. We come here as people bearing basketful of goodies that we want to bring to the world. So we are coming here because we have a purpose, something to give to the world. As you continue this journey, that you continue it with peace, with love, and with a lot of support. May the spirit you are bring the very medicine that the world needs for healing. It has been really exciting sharing and seeing people's reaction to the healing that it has brought for so many families and so many generations.
The slightest things that the mother is doing are part of the baby's environment and affect the baby, so they will start moving very shortly after a mother laughs, for example. So you can imagine what's happening to babies if parents are fighting, if the mother is in grief about something, if there's a separation, if there is a death, like the father dying before birth. Babies are really tuned into their environment. And that's a whole new idea about the consciousness of a baby in the womb.
Research now shows very clearly that the mother's emotional state during pregnancy determines the actual shape, nature, and character of the brain structure that grows in the infant. This has been established without any question. All mammals follow the same pattern. If the mother is in a state of high anxiety, fear, worry, and so forth, she gives birth to an infant with a different brain structure, one with a much larger, what we call the old hindbrain, the survival, sensory motor brain, and a much reduced size intellectual, creative brain. It's as though at every birth nature is saying, well, can we go for more intelligence or do we have to defend ourselves again?
It's really important with all this new information coming out that we not blame moms, that we support our moms to do what they innately know is right.
The more the mother is accepted and given unconditional love and support by her society, the greater the chance the infant in her womb has of being born fully human, you might say. As some countries have, such as Sweden, and in fact Austria has now followed Sweden's lead, and Holland is also picking up on it, of literally full support of the mother, both in pregnancy and in the first 3 years of the child's life.
There's no paternity leave in our country. There's hardly any maternity leave. I just wish so much that our government would support a mother being with the child for the first 3 years. There's so many studies to show that those first 3 years form the person.
When babies are born, it can be a very intense experience for them as well as their parents. As the baby emerges, there's a huge emotional drive for parents and their newborn child to connect and settle in together. This time of settling in together deepens their bond.
That bonding is brought about by skin-to-skin contact of mother and infant after the infant comes out of the womb. And this bonding process goes on, and we know exactly what it is. We know the 3 points of it. Audio-visual communication, which means eye contact and the mother's voice, nurturing, breastfeeding, holding, massaging, fondling the infant in every way, and play. And the play that spontaneously arises between the infant, right from the beginning practically, and the mother.
You just squirt, ooh, I didn't mean to squirt you. Teeth, lips.
If those 3 things are enacted, then you have healthy growth in the child, and the interesting thing, you have tremendous new growth in the mother. She discovers an aspect of herself that she's never experienced before. That bonding brings out as much new information in the mother's encoded system as it does in the child's. They create a dynamic, and each is bringing the other into a new form of awareness. These are expectancies in that child. When they open their eyes and look around, they're looking for a face. And at close quarters, not only will their eyes lock on the human face and its eyes, but that turns on the entire infant's brain. It turns on their awareness in this new setting they find themselves in. Within minutes, they're functioning on a level of response which the child not given that face at birth is an average of 3 months late in developing.
So it's sort of like there's glue on the mother and there's glue on the baby right after birth. And if they get to do this right afterwards, it sort of sets, and they connect and they meet each other, soul to soul, body to body. And when one is taken away for one reason or another, the glue starts to dry a little bit. And so when it's postponed, it can take a little more work to get the glue to stick. And it still can happen. It can happen throughout a lifetime, and I think it really does. But if it gets to do it right from the beginning, there's a lot less effort involved in the connecting.
The face needs to be at a distance of 6 to 12 inches away to really function as the wake-up call to that new life to come into this world. 6 to 12 inches away just happens to be, by strangest coincidence, right at the point of nurturing.
From the very beginning, we're building the capacity to trust. And if the baby isn't held and treated gently, if the baby is taken away and mom and baby are separated, the very first impression that the baby has is, where's my mom?
When they first get here, it seems to me like they're just getting used to breathing through their lungs for the first time. Their circulatory system is changing. There's a lot of new pathways that are being made inside. And when they just get to settle in that and allow that to happen for the first 20 minutes or so, there's an impulse inside of them that shows this readiness to head north and find the breast and discover what's there. And if we can just support that and look for that impulse and not be so busy that we're missing that signal that the baby's ready to go there, seems like everything just works a lot better.
And what babies need is peace and quiet, warmth, a transition that should be as gentle as can be.
Ironically, the hospital, which we consider the safest place to have a baby, can implement protocols that in fact pose certain threats to the baby's healthy development. Many experts believe that separation of mother, family, and baby, unnecessary procedures, and a lack of sensitivity disrupt bonding, and are all serious concerns.
If you go to a big, high-powered hospital, they're very good at taking care of the severely premature babies and the sick babies, but what confuses them is your healthy 7 or 8 pound baby born right on time. The vast majority of babies, healthy full-term babies, will stabilize and normalize much better in their mother and father's arms than they will in the nursery. Much, much better.
When the baby is in contact with the mother, something happens in their nervous system that helps them to respond quicker than if they're away from the mother's body. And so if when the baby is born and needs to be suctioned and given oxygen, that it's done in proximity of the mother's body, if not on the body, right beside the body, so that the mother can stay in physical contact and the cord can stay connected, and so that that baby can continue to get oxygen and nutrients through the cord while they're struggling to get here, rather than having that connection severed and whooshed, whisked away. They're still held as a unit and that connection is honored.
It's only in the last decade or so that we've been serious about the fact that newborn infants can actually have pain. We used to stand and watch them scream and yell and smile about it in a delivery room. If a baby was crying, we thought that was normal. We said, oh, what a healthy baby, because it has a strong cry. Well, we were not treating that as genuine communication, because obstetrics and medicine in general had this idea the baby could not be having a real experience. So whatever you did to it was okay.
They're little bitty human beings. They have
anybody's conscious fault. But I think the medical world doesn't validate the emotional, the spiritual life of the mother and the child, the reality of human values. They are so focused, as rightfully they should be, on the physical, but they neglect the other, and the other is very important. It is a heart-opening human ritual that needs to be honored and respected and have as little medical intervention as possible. I think women are now claiming that it's their birth. It's not the hospital's birth. It's not the hospital's baby. It's not the doctor's baby. It's their baby. It's an incredible experience that their whole family is having. And so more and more I think women are now becoming aware of the fact it's really important to keep your baby with you, especially if there's been a trauma, because it heals the baby. It lowers the stress hormones, brings endorphins for both of them. It's a sacred moment and it should not be violated unless, of course, it's a medical emergency, and then you do